Hey, Andy here from Andy's Golf Blog. Now, ShotScope recently updated their online dashboard, so the editor is completely different now, and it's the same for the mobile apps as well. So if you're looking at editing your ShotScope round using the online dashboard or using your mobile device, then you will notice that the editing tools are completely different. And in my opinion, they're actually a big improvement both visually and in terms of how you edit your round, but I do appreciate that quite a few people seem to be struggling editing their rounds using these new editors, so I thought I'd create a couple of tutorials explaining basically how to go about editing your rounds. Now, this particular video is going to focus on using the dashboard version of the editing tool, so you can access that through a web browser on your laptop or your desktop computer. I have a separate video for editing using the mobile app, which I'll put in the card above just now. I'll pop a link to that video in the description below this video, and I'll also put a link at the end of this video which you can follow to watch how to edit your round using the mobile app. But for now, we're going to focus on using the dashboard version of the editing tool to edit your ShotScope rounds. Now, you'll see on screen I have already logged into the ShotScope dashboard in a browser, and we're in this rounds section here. That's where you always go to edit your rounds. Now, if you're not familiar with how ShotScope actually gets your rounds from your ShotScope H4 or your V3 into the dashboard, you basically need to connect your H4 or your V3 to the mobile app, and then what you want to do is click on the sync rounds button. That will then take the rounds that are stored on your device from your device into your account, and you can then edit using the mobile version or this online dashboard. So they should appear on the left hand side here. Now, I'm currently looking at all of my rounds for 2022, so there's a filter at the top here, so you can change for the different years you have used your ShotScope devices. So I could jump back to 2020, or I can go back to the current year. And the default will always be the current year where your last round took place. So obviously if I start creating new rounds for 2023, they will then appear in a 2023 filter here, but for now it's 2022. Now, you'll note the rounds which you have uploaded but haven't yet edited because they will appear with a little pencil icon next to them. So this round here is basically just a test round where I grabbed some shots, and I'm going to take you through the editing process in just a second. So we'll take a look at all of the new features, I'll talk about them, I'll explain how they work, and by the end of this tutorial, hopefully you'll have a clearer idea of how to edit your rounds properly using the online dashboard. Now, any rounds which you have previously edited and signed off on will appear with a blue marking if they are over par, they'll have a grey marking if they are level par, and they'll have red if they are under par. So you'll see here I've got a lot of them which unfortunately are over par, but that's okay. This one here is just a sample because there's no way I've got to shoot a -1 round. But you can see these ones have been signed off. Now, looking at this list, everything here is appearing in my performance statistics except for this one here. So you'll see that I have omitted this one from my stats. So any shots which I have in this particular round don't appear in my performance stats up here because, again, it was just a sample round. If you don't see that icon, then it means that your round will be included in your performance stats. Now, this one here, if I click on this round here, Dunfermline Golf Club, you'll see I've not yet signed this one off, and I can't see the scoring statistics for that round because it hasn't been signed off yet. If I click on this round here, you'll see we can see the basic statistics for the round there. On the left hand side here, you see your map, and it allows you to zoom in so you can basically see all of the holes that you've played. But I never worry about this too much because once you actually get in and edit your round, you'll be able to see the map and all the shots anyway. Then below that, you'll see the hole and your score for your rounds. You'll see in this instance, I've only played 12 holes, and there's my score for the round, and here are the holes just above. But again, I don't really waste too much time looking at the statistics on this page because I like to focus more on my general performance. But you'll see if I was to open up this round, for example, then I can see a lot more about my scoring statistics for this particular round. So we can see the total score down here. We can see up in this box our score per par 3 holes, par 4, par 5 for this round, then for the entire season, then against last year. We can also see the strokes gained. So you can see strokes gained overall, and for par 3s, par 4s, par 5s, even things like front 9, back 9. And you'll see if we change the handicap benchmarking, if I change this to, I don't know, against a tour player, then we can see that all of the strokes gained changes here as well. So again, if I change this to against a 15 handicapper, then hopefully I am gaining some strokes. But if I drop it down to a scratch golfer, you'll see on, for example, the par 4s, I, for this round, was losing over 7 strokes. So if we scroll further down, you can see you get your full strokes gained for the round, for the season, and for last year, and lots of other statistics. You can also view your course analysis as well. I'm not going to go into that in any more detail because this video is really just looking how to actually edit your round. But it's worth noting that there are a lot of statistics that are available in this overview page here before you have actually even really delved into your rounds properly. Now, a new feature that ShotScope have added, if I click on this round here, which we've not yet edited, is if I go to either sign off here or sign off here, you will see there is now an option for a quick sign off. So this is ideal if basically you don't want to tweak anything, you just want all of the data captured. So at present, if I was to click quick sign off, then all of the shots that the watch has detected on the golf course that I haven't yet edited will be saved. Now these will be added to my performance statistics, so they're not omitted from there. Therefore, if I haven't gone in and tweaked the length of putts, if maybe they've not been recorded 100% accurate, or if, for example, on some holes it's captured me as being in the fairway when actually I was in the rough, it's going to include those as fairways in regulation or greens in regulation. So it's not an option that I tend to use. I prefer to go through and properly edit my rounds. But if you just want to quickly sign off, you can use this option. And basically what will happen is that when you click quick sign off, it will then sign off your round and you'll see it appears just like all of your other rounds in the ShotScope dashboard. Now it's worth noting that if you use the quick sign off option, then those rounds will be excluded from things like earning medals, from leaderboards, and from the course hub. Okay, so you can still have those in your statistics, but those rounds where you quick sign off won't be included in medals, leaderboards, or the course hub. So we've done the quick sign off there, but I would rather go in and properly edit this round. So I'm going to go into edit, and you'll see the quick sign off is no longer available because we've used that. But I'm going to go edit and sign off, and this will take me into the proper editor for this particular round. Now I'm not going to edit every single hole because there's 12 of them. I'm just going to take you through the general process of editing a couple of different holes, and hopefully by the end of that you'll be more comfortable in using this tool. So the first thing to mention is that on the right hand side here you have some options for choosing your course handicap. You can select your tees. If you want, you can also create your own tee set. So it could be you're going to use this add option because maybe there's one hole that the par changes depending on whether you play from the whites or the yellows. For example, on our course we can play from the whites for every hole in general play except for the third hole, which we have to play from the yellows, and therefore the par adjusts slightly. So I can create my own tee set using this option here. On the old version of the ShotScope dashboard, you usually work through all of the sign off options at the beginning. When you're using this version of the dashboard, you can do this at the very end. So we can even do things like select our stroke index, which is another new feature. But I'm going to come back to this box at the end because we're going to focus primarily on editing our round for now, and then we'll work through that when we're signing off. So you'll see here we have the very first hole. We've got the map at the top here. If we want to zoom in to see the shots, then we can use the roller button on our mouse, or if you're on a laptop with a tracker pad, you can pull 2 fingers apart, that will zoom in, or 2 fingers together to zoom out. If you want to move around the map, you can basically click and drag, and then you can zoom in. So we'll go there to the first tee shot. Now, your first shot should automatically appear from the tee. That's generally how ShotScope works. So even if you aren't actually playing from your normal tee, so on my course the normal tee is over here, but we're on this temporary one, but it knows it's your first shot, it's your tee shot, so it marks it as your tee shot anyway. So you'll see that's the first shot here, and we can click on this and we get some further options, but we don't need to worry about those for now because the shot has been recorded correctly. But you'll see it tells me I'm 257 yards from the hole. I have taken a 5 iron, there's my club here, and I've shot 157 yards, which has left me 109 in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag up through the map so I can see where the ball has landed. Now you'll see here on the second shot, that's this one here, it tells me that I'm on the fairway. Now the way that this works is ShotScope uses these Google Maps to map out the course, and they basically run around where they think the fairway is, and they mark off where the rough is, and they do the same for the green. So they would mark around the green, and then the rest would be the apron. Now if I zoom in, it could be that this shot here is actually on the rough, but ShotScope thinks it's on the fairway because of the mapping. So if you notice your mapping's a little bit out, you can contact ShotScope. They do the mapping in-house, and they should be able to remap your course for you within 48 hours. But they have now added an option that allows you to adjust the lie. So previously, if this was on the fairway and ShotScope was telling me it was actually in the rough, I would have to manually click and drag it like this to move it back into the fairway. But now they have an option here. So if this is actually in the rough, but it's telling me it's the fairway, I can come down here and I can actually change it. So I can mark it as being in the rough. Now in this case it is in the fairway, so that's okay. But you now have the ability to mark it as things like being in a bunker, being on the fairway, being in the rough. But in this case, I'll leave it as the fairway. Now I've used my pitching wedge and I pitched it, let's see, just short of the green. And then I played a little chip shot on, and you'll see I've got 2 putts here on the green. So let's have a look quickly at how we can move the pin. So let's say that it has recorded the pin as being on the front right hand side here, but actually it was maybe more sort of central right. All we need to do is click on the pin and we can drag it up. Now if you want a better view of the green, you can click on the little flag here and you'll see it will adjust it. Now if I was down here, for example, and click on there, it will take me onto the green. So this allows you to go back to the full view or jump to the green. So I've adjusted the position of the flag here by just clicking and dragging it. But now you'll see that this shot here is quite far away. Let's say, for example, I putted from here, but actually my 5th putt was just a tap in. Historically, what we used to do in the ShotScope editing is grab and move this to be really close to the pin. But it wasn't always clear if we were beyond the pin or short of the pin. So if it's now a tap in, what you can do is you can select the shot and then you can click on this tap in button, and it allows you to choose whether or not you tapped in from beyond the hole, less than a foot, or if you tapped in front of the hole, so short of the hole but less than a foot. So I'm going to say that I tapped in I came up just a bit short but less than a foot, and you'll see it positions it just short of the pin. So tap in will always appear for your final putt, and it allows you to basically mark if you've literally tapped in from less than a foot, either below or beyond the hole, which is quite a nice new additional feature that will hopefully make your statistics even more accurate. Now, if I want to move to the next hole where we're going to look at how to move positions of our shots, I'm going to click on this button here. That will take me to the second hole. Alternatively, what you can do is you can scroll down and you can use these options here. So I could jump between holes here, or we can select the different hole from here. So we click on the down pointing arrow and it will give me the front 9 and the back 9. So let's go to the second hole and let's see what's going on here. So I hit a 6 iron for my tee shot, and then if I scroll in, you'll see that this second shot has landed just short of the green. I've then chipped it on a little bit long, and the 4th putt was basically just here, but you'll see it's recorded that as being on the fairway, and that's because when ShotScope is recording your position on the golf course, it can't be accurate enough to be within like 10 or 15 centimetres. It tends to be up to around about 4 or 5 foot. So I might here want to move the flag. Let's just make sure the pin is just on the green. And then you'll see the 3rd shot is just off the green, which may well be the case, but the 4th shot is going to be on the green. So I'm just going to nudge that in a little bit. Now what you can also do is you can now make use of your keyboard arrows to move shots. So if I select the 4th shot here, I can move it left and right or up and down. So I can just basically move that around using the arrow keys. Now it's only doing it by 1 foot as it tells me here, but you can increase it to 1 foot, you can do 2 foot, or you can do 5. And you'll see as I move around, it's now moving it by 5 foot on the green. So if you prefer to click and drag, you can simply just click and drag like you could before, but you can also adjust using these options here to move it around with your arrow keys between 1, 2 and 5 foot when you're on the green. For any shot which is short, let's say for example this second one here, this is on the fairway, it's slightly different. So instead of being 1, 2 and 5 foot, it's now 1, 5 and 10 yards. So if I use my arrow key, we're moving this around up, down, left, right by 1 yard. But you'll see I can adjust this and do it by 5 yards or even 10, which is quite a big difference. But however, if you're zoomed out, that doesn't appear quite as big. So you'll see you can adjust here, and if you're interested in just using the arrow keys, it's a nice way to move around. Now, I really hope you are enjoying this video tutorial so far. If you are, be sure to hit that like button and feel free to let me know in the comments what you think about this brand new editor from ShotScope. Now let's get back to this tutorial. Let's say, for example, that I am using the ShotScope H4 and I tagged this chip shot of my 60, but then I decided to use a different club. So I actually played my, let's say my 56, but I didn't re-tag. You'll see here it still has it listed as my 60 degree. What I can do is I can now click on the chevron and I can select a different club. Now you've always been able to do this, however, we've now got this active club filter. So this will only show clubs which are active in your My Bag area up here of the dashboard. So these are clubs which are actually set up and being currently assigned in your bag using the My Bag area. If you toggle this filter off, you can see all of the clubs that you have in the My Bag, including those which aren't currently assigned. Now this is where it can get a bit confusing because you see I've got two 54s here, but I don't know which one is currently in play because sometimes the colours change the more clubs you add. So I always like to keep this filter on, but it could be that you have other clubs out on the golf course which aren't currently assigned, but you have used them for maybe testing out different distances, so you can toggle off the active club filter and select that club, and then it will change. But in this case, I'm going to put that on, and I'm going to say that I used my gap wedge for this shot and not my 60. So you'll see that's how you can change your club. And you can do this for anything. So if I've used my 5 iron from the tee, then I can just change that in there if I need to. Now if you're a ShotScope V3 user, what will happen is it will record the last tag that you have swung the club with from that location. So if I had initially pulled out my 56 and then swapped to my 60, as long as it has recorded that, then that will be the club which will be displayed here. But the H4 handheld works a little bit differently because you manually tag. So if I haven't manually tagged it, that wouldn't have updated. So we need to do that manually. So you'll see here we've now updated this hole. Let's jump to the next one and take a look at how we can add some penalty strokes. So you'll see here if I zoom in, it's for some reason got my tee shot quite a bit short, but it's still listed it as the tee here. The teeing area is in fact this area here, so I'm just going to click and drag and drop that back on the tee. Now let's say for example, if I zoom out a little bit, instead of saying that I hit the fairway, let's say that my first ball landed out of bounds, but at the time I didn't record it using the watch because I like to add these things in manually afterwards when editing my round rather than using the penalty stroke options on the watch. So how do we add an out of bounds ball here? What we do is we click on the first stroke and then you'll see you have the option to add a drop ball, lost ball or positional. I'm going to add lost ball and then you'll see you need to select where you lost the ball. So I'm going to take this number 2, I'll just drag it out of bounds over here, and then it will have recorded the penalty here. Then we have our third shot, which is off of the tee, and then our fourth shot has found the fairway. So that's how you can add in your penalty stroke if you have, for example, lost a ball from the tee. Let's say, for example, where we go down to my fourth shot here, I maybe accidentally tapped my ball and it's a 1-stroke penalty. How do we add that? Well, I'm going to click on the number 4. So this is our fourth shot, and you'll see you get some options here. But we only have drop ball, lost ball or positional. And we didn't drop a ball and we didn't lose a ball. We just need to add a standard penalty. So to add your standard penalty, what you do is you click on this little plus icon here, and then you choose either a 1-stroke or 2-stroke penalty. So I'm going to choose a 1-stroke penalty, and then I'm going to click add shot. And then it says, okay, where should that penalty be placed? Well, I've already zoomed into my fourth one here, so I'm just going to click just next to that. And then you will see the 1-stroke penalty has been added here, and the 4 has now changed to a 5 because that's now become my 5th shot. So now that we've looked at how to add a penalty like that, how do we remove a shot or remove a penalty? Well, it's quite straightforward. You basically click on the item you want to remove or the shot. You'll see here we've got this 1-stroke penalty, and we now get an option here to delete the shot. So I'm going to delete that, and this will change back to my 4th shot. So delete shot, and then I choose delete shot, and it's now the 4th. If I want to delete that second one, which was the 1-stroke penalty from the tee, all I need to do is click on it and then click delete shot, and then you will see it has actually removed the 3rd one, which was the second ball off of the tee, because we've deleted that penalty, and we're back to having hit our main tee shot here, and then we have our second shot from this fairway. Now let's take a look at how to add a couple of other penalty strokes to your round. I'm going to look at this hole here where we have my tee shot, if I can just zoom back. So I've played my tee shot from here, and let's say that I have found a water hazard where I need to take a drop. Again, I didn't record this on the golf course using my ShotScope watch. I decided just to do this in post or in edit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first stroke here, which is my tee shot, and I'm going to click on drop ball. And what will happen is that what was my second shot will now appear here in red, and I'm going to drop this just to where basically the ball landed, and then you'll see my 3rd shot has been played from this position. So we've now added a 1-stroke penalty for me basically just having to drop a ball. If I quickly delete this one, the other option you have is for a lost ball. So let's say, for example, you have hit your second shot here and you have lost that ball. It could have gone way long here. I'm going to click on my second stroke here and choose lost ball. You will then have to choose using this where basically you lost the ball. So I'm going to put it into here, and then you'll see it automatically adds in another stroke here, which is basically where I've replayed it. So I lost it in these trees. I could see it went flying in there, and I decided to play a provisional from here, and I've then used that provisional. So you'll see we've got a 1-stroke penalty, and then we have the second shot. Now, I may have actually gone pitch and wedge first time and then lost the ball, so decided to change that, but I didn't actually update it. So I can choose another club here and say, well, in fact, I then went with my, I don't know, gap wedge instead. So that's how you can make use of the drop ball option here and make use of the lost ball option. The last thing I want to mention, which is really quite important, is the positional shot. So let's say, for example, you're playing a par 5 like we are here. If your 3rd shot is maybe not an attempt to reach the green, let's say, for example, there's a burn in front of the green and you don't think you're going to get there in 3, you might want to lay up short of the burn with your 3rd shot. So how do you add that as a positional shot? Well, firstly, the reason you might want to do this is because it will include, if you don't, that as an attempt to reach the green in regulation, which you have failed. So let me just move this 3rd one back here. Okay, and we'll reposition it here. So we'll say that we're making our 3rd shot from here, but instead of landing on the green, we're going to try and lay up just to here. So I'm going to drag my 4th one back. Now obviously you wouldn't normally edit your round in this way, but I'm just going to pretend that I've laid up to here. So my 3rd shot, instead of going for the green, I have purposely laid up here. Now because it is less than 50 yards, it should be omitted from your shots anyway. But what I prefer to do is click on the 3rd shot here and then choose positional. And what this means is it's not going to say that this was a failed attempt to make the green in regulation. The other reason you might want to use this is, let's say for example, we are in the trees here, and I have basically just tapped out from the trees, and I'll change it to, let's say we've just tapped out with a 4-iron, okay? We've only hit that 25 yards. I don't want that to be included in my statistics saying that for my 4-iron I've only hit it 25 yards, because that's going to adjust things. Now because it's less than 50 yards, it wouldn't do that anyway, so it would be omitted from a performance average for my 4-iron. But if it was a bit more, so let's make it 51, that is going to bring my average for my 4-iron right down, because if I'm consistently hitting it around about 190, 200, and then I've hit one at 50, it's going to drop it down. So I don't want that to appear in the statistics, but it is over 50 yards, so I need to make sure that I mark that one as positional. And now it won't adjust my performance average statistics for that particular club. Now the final thing I want to show you with regards to editing your round is how to add a shot. This is quite important if, for example, you're using the ShotScope V3 and you've made 2 strokes from pretty much the same location. Often the device will only count this as 1 stroke because they're in a very close proximity. So let's say, for example, you'll see here I've made my second shot from the bunker here to the back of the green, but actually I didn't get out of the bunker in one, I took 2 strokes to get out. So really my third stroke is from in this bunker. Well, how do I add that? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to click on the plus button here, and then I'm going to choose my club. And again, it's showing me all of my active clubs. I'm going to say that I played out of the bunker with my sand wedge this time. And then I'm going to click on add shot. It's then going to ask me to click where I need to add this shot. So I'm going to click inside the bunker just there. And you'll see it adds the third shot as being in the green bunker. And the one that was at the back, which was my third shot, has now become my fourth. That was a chip onto the green, and then it was a 1 putt for a 5. So if you need to add any strokes, all you need to do is click on the plus button, select your club, and then you basically click where you want to add the stroke. So if I added it back here, that's where it would insert that stroke. So now that we have looked at how to edit our round using all of the editing tools, the next thing we need to do is look at signing off. So you'll see here we've got the total score, the number of holes played, we've got our course handicap, which you can adjust in here. I don't usually tend to worry about that too much if I'm honest, but I think this is more important for like the course hub area. You can choose your tees, so it should know which tees you're using, but you can select them from here, and as I mentioned earlier, you can always click on add to basically create your own set of tees. And then you'll see if I go down to here, there's also this new stroke index option. So you can come into here and you can add the stroke indexes for your particular course. You can either add them for men or for women. So you just go to add men's, and then you basically enter the stroke index for each of the holes on your golf course. So initially they'll just be 1 through to 9, then basically 10 through to 18, but you can adjust these. Then you can click on the confirm button. Final thing to mention here is you can share your round on the course hub, which lets other people who follow your course see how you've performed in this set, things like the course record or longest drive for your course, that kind of thing. So you can choose to share it into there, and you can also include or choose not to include in your performance statistics. Now this is a prime example where I wouldn't want to include this round in my performance stats because I've just been using it more as a test round. So I'm going to omit them by unchecking this option. And one last thing to mention before I leave here is there is now this handy little help area here. So if you need any help for editing your round whilst you're using the editing tool, it actually links you out to ShotScope support pages to help you with the editing process. But hopefully after watching this video, you won't need to make use of those. Last thing to do now, we've gone through all of these options, is to hit the sign off button to sign off on our round. And if you have unlocked any medals, if for example you haven't already used a quick sign off, which I did, then you'll get your medals at this point. It'll tell you if you unlocked them, and your stats should appear in things like the leaderboards as well. You'll see that the performance statistics aren't showing here, and that's because I chose not to include them. If I then decide actually I do want to include this in my performance stats, then all I need to do is go back to edit, then go to edit and sign off. I can always make as many edits as I need to, but I can include in my performance stats. I'll sign off once again, and then you will see that inside this performance area, this particular round will be included, but all of the statistics will now be available for this particular round because I've chosen to include the stats. But I'll just take these off just to keep things tidy. Now I really hope you have found this video useful. If you have, please do hit that like button. Comment below to let me know what you think of this new editor. Do you prefer the changes, or did you prefer the editor before? And of course, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them into the comments area and I'll try my best to answer them. If you're new to the channel, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and check out my other ShotScope videos, of which I have plenty, to help you get the most out of your ShotScope devices. For now though, if you want to take a look at how to edit using the mobile app, check out this video on screen, and if you want to take a look at my other ShotScope videos, you can view this handy playlist. But thanks again for watching.